At the end of this topic, you should be able to make generalizations on the attributes of good language learners. Welcome to the topic, Attributes of Good Language Learners. To begin, observe the video and then do the activity that follows. Click on the play button to observe.
Hello, I'm Adam. You know, since last time, my English not so good. Barely pass exam English. How to learn English tea? Everything in English. If only know how to speak good English. Look at my friend Sasha. How is she learning to speak so good English?
Hi, I'm Sasha. I've been learning English all my life and I've thoroughly enjoyed my years of learning. To be proficient, I practice speaking the language with my family and friends. I am not afraid of making mistakes. To me, I can learn from them. I read books, newspapers, and magazines on a regular basis. I also enjoy adding new words to my existing vocabulary.
Language learners display a variety of different learning styles. The way that individual learners respond in a shared language learning situation and the kinds of activities they engage in when working with language learning materials on their own also vary. The language learning context, therefore, also needs to accommodate these differences in learning styles so that all language learners have the best chance of achieving individual success. With this in mind, this topic aims to encourage you to develop an autonomous approach. It also aims to offer a range of ideas for language learning activities which you might wish to try out and build into your own collection of learning strategies for your own classrooms later. It is important to note that there is no best way to learn a language, just different ways that suit different people. This is based on the fact that language learners use a variety of different learning styles and that different people learn in different ways. Let's take a look at three of the main ways. Natural learning acquisition, guided learning acquisition, self-study packages and methods. Move the mouse over anyway to know more. Let's now look at some of the attributes of good language learners in detail. Basically, no matter what type of languages that you learn, the attributes of good language learners are usually the same. But in this topic, we shall focus on the 14 characteristics of good language learners as described by Rubin and Thompson. Click on any characteristic to know more. As a good language learner, you must find your own way to take charge of your own learning. This is called autonomous or student-centered learning. However, To be an effective learner, you can also exploit a variety of other situations, materials, and people that can contribute to your learning process. You determine the methods that are best for you and learn from others and experiment with different methods and are open and receptive to other opinions, styles, and applications. As a good language learner, you organize your study of the language and organize information about the language you study. You ought to often seek out opportunities to use the language you are learning. You should have speaking friends and colleagues with whom you can speak in that language. You are suggested to read in the language, translate papers, listen to related songs or radio stations, if available, and watch television programs or series to enhance your understanding and develop your skills. Knowing how to organize language in terms of form or structure, the meaning expressed, and typical environments of use is a valuable skill. As language itself is creative, a good language learner is expected to be creative. As a creative learner, you would take charge of your learning by experimenting with different methods, techniques, approach, and applications of vocabulary, sounds, and grammar during the learning process. As a creative learner, you also develop a feel for the language by experimenting with its grammar and words. Through these experiments, you would be exposed to the various ways of learning the language in different situations and scenarios. Good language learners make their own opportunities for practicing the language inside and outside of the classroom. Therefore, to be a good language learner, you should always be looking for opportunities to make progress and practice using the new language. You will put yourself into positions where you must use the language. In addition, you do not expect to learn the language just by sitting in the classroom, and do not rely on just a teacher to totally direct your learning. An effective language learner does not stop practicing on leaving the classroom. You would think of ideas, of ways to practice beyond the walls of the classroom. Good language learners learn to live with uncertainty by focusing on the meaning of what they can understand, by not getting flustered, and by continuing to talk or listen without necessarily understanding every word. Good language learners understand that learning is about trial and error. This means that the focus is less on the grammar, but more on the meaning and understanding of what you want to say. You also learn to comfortably apply the language by continuing to talk or listen by focusing on what you understand. Good language learners use mnemonics and other memory strategies to recall what they are learning. Some people have a poor memory, and some can easily absorb new vocabulary. There are many tricks you can use to help you remember the pronunciation of certain words, spelling, or the form of language structures. If you cannot remember a word, make an effort to use mnemonic techniques. Many mnemonics also take the form of acronyms. To recall the spelling of the word mnemonic, say, you could memorize the phrase on screen. Taking the initial letters of each word spells out mnemonic. Good language learners make errors work for them and not against them. You probably make the occasional mistake when speaking your native language, so making mistakes in a foreign language is nothing to worry about. What matters is getting your message across, not whether you use all the right words, inflections, tenses, cases, etc. If you cannot think of the exact words, try using other ones. Errors, mistakes, or slips. They all can be used to sharpen our awareness and understanding of the known and the new. Language learning is a constant process of trial, error, success. Good language learners use linguistic knowledge, including knowledge of their first language, in learning a second language. All learners come with a wealth of knowledge, whether conscious or unconscious, of how language functions and are likely to be multilingual. Rather than ignore it, think about how can you incorporate this into your lessons? How can you benefit from this? Being a good language learner, you are expected to constantly analyze the language and thus constantly learning. Good language learners use contextual clues to aid their comprehension of the language. Being a good language learner, you can maximize use of all potential contexts around the language attended to for enhancing comprehension. Let's take a look at this example. Read the sentence. Then use any clues you can find in the sentence, combined with your prior knowledge, to think about the underlined word. Click on the underlined word to check the answer. Good language learners learn to make intelligent guesses. Being a good guesser is clearly an important part of the learning process. If you read or listen to something in the language you are learning and come across a word that you are not familiar with, try to guess the meaning by using contextual or structural clues or by looking for cognates. If someone is speaking to you and you are having difficulty in understanding a good part of it, try to guess by paying attention to the meaning, using clues such as gestures, the relationship of the speaker, and listening to the tone of voice. Being able to guess, to deduce the intended meaning from the information at hand, is an invaluable skill.